Hey guys, how you doing today? I wanted to come to you with a quick video, kind of taking some of the things we said on Sunday a little bit further, talking about this idea of spiritual warfare. And on Sunday, we talked about spiritual warfare from Ephesians chapter 6, but today I want to take a look at a couple verses we've read recently from the book of Joshua and Judges. Now, at the end of Joshua, chapter 24, 31, and then again in Judges chapter 2, verse 6 and 7, it talks about the people following God as long as those that personally experienced the miracles in the miracles of Canaan in the promised land, in conquering the promised land. As long as those people were alive, the people followed God. As long as those that personally experienced those moves of God were alive, they continued to follow God. But then a generation rose up that didn't remember those times. It says in verse 10 of chapter 2 of Judges, that generation died, and another generation grew up that did not acknowledge the Lord or remember the mighty things he had done in Israel. Instead, they did evil in the Lord's sight and served the images of Baal. And so, why did they not follow God? Because they hadn't personally seen a move of God. Now, we're doing this idea of talking about spiritual warfare, and one of the things is that a lot of times we're just like, God, why do I have to go through this? Why do I have to go through this? I remember years ago, there was a lady in our church. Her name was Dorothy and Paulus, and she had been in the hospital. I don't remember. It was like something like 6 months. Man, she had heart surgery and had complications, and it didn't look like she was going to make it. Sometimes we didn't know if she was ever going to come out of coma, and then we didn't know if she was going to live, she was going to make it. She was like something like 6 months in rehab. And then she told us after that experience, she said, I wouldn't have traded it for the world, because it was in the middle of that I got to know God, that I actually got to know him. Now, she had been Christian for years. She had all sorts of testimonies and things that she could share with you about how she connected with God. But it was in that extreme trial that she was able to meet God in a way that changed her relationship with him. In Judges chapter 3, God said this: these are the nations that the Lord left in the land to test those Israelites who had not experienced the wars of Canaan. He did this to teach warfare to the generations of Israelites who had no experience in battle. And you know what? It's really awesome when we learn from the battles that have gone before us. The best way to learn is from other people's mistakes, because it's the least painful way. But when you learn from your own pain, you learn in a different kind of way. You learn in a way that hopefully you'll never forget. And God said, you know why I didn't give them complete victory? Because each generation needed to learn how to trust me on their own. I needed to leave some of those nations in the land that didn't experience the wars of Canaan, because this generation didn't know warfare. They didn't know how to fight a spiritual warfare. They didn't know how to trust me in the trial. And so he left those nations there so that the Israelites could learn what it was to trust God and to press in and find him. They hadn't experienced battle before, so they got to experience battle for themselves. And so this is what I want to do. I want to encourage you today. Sometimes when we have a battle in front of us that we just don't want to face and we don't think we should face, maybe God put it in front of us to face so we could really learn what it means to trust him. So we could really learn what it means to know him for ourselves. Because it says, when those that experienced the miracles in Canaan and those that were alive in Joshua's times, they stayed faithful. But when those that personally experienced it had passed away, the next generation said, we don't know why to follow God. Well, here's the thing. When you get a chance to personally put into practice your faith and you get to see a move of God happen in your life, and you never want to walk away from that. So I want to challenge you that when you're facing these hard times, maybe God put those hard times in front of you like he did for Dottie, so that Dottie said, man, I would have gone through it every time, because that's when I really met God and got to experience him. When you go through these hard times, don't run and try to escape them. Man, press into God and let him prove himself through them. So I hope this is encouraging to you today. God bless you guys, and keep growing.